What is up, guys? In this video today, we're about to talk about one of the biggest mistakes that is costing you bass when fishing tournaments. But guys, we're going to talk about the tournament side and then the normal weekend angler side as well. I'm going to share with you experiences from friends and myself from fishing and as a boat captain on when avoiding this mistake helped us do very well in tournaments and also catching fish on just a normal weekend day. So guys, let's get into the video. So this discussion, and this is a topic, guys, that's been brought up a lot, and you might have heard it, but I'm going to go ahead and share real life experiences of it. But this topic got brought up on my last podcast with Buzz Sawyer, who won the Mr. Bass Classic in 2023. Me and him were in the podcast, got into this topic, and he shared his experience on what he did and just how he felt to help him win the tournament. And guys, the mistake is leaving fish to find more fish. And guys, in situations, you need to stay in your area and figure them out. Buzz, what he shared with me on the podcast is how it was a tough tournament, guys, at Lake Darnell in the fall. And guys, I know us, we don't get as many days to practice and time to practice as these professional anglers do. When they go down to Florida, as we just saw, go to Del Hollow, they get days to practice. Sometimes we don't. Buzz here at Darnell had one area where he found a specific group of fish and had a pattern going, as he shared. But up the lake, way up the lake, he had a couple areas of history to where he knew he could probably get a big bite. In the tournament, the second day is a 2-day tournament. He's in this area, and he had, I believe, 4 fish already, what he shared. And he sat down twice in his boat, twice right here in the motor to start it, put the life jacket on, and couldn't go. He was like, he wanted to run up the lake and see if he can get one more big bite. But he's like, man, I just don't know. I just need to figure these fish out. Try a different lure, try a different technique. And he ended up staying in that area, and it won him the tournament. And guys, what that then brought us, as we're going to get into, is staying in an area, figuring out what the fish want. And that's one thing with practicing for tournament, guys. If you get one day of practice for a tournament, we just had the BFL guys and the Mr. Bass tournament on Lake DeGray for my Arkansas guys. There were guys out there since Tuesday practicing. They don't know how to practice. They caught fish. And then I was getting reports from them, from multiple anglers. Oh, I'm catching this, I'm catching that. The conditions changed, okay? But what some of them did not adapt to the conditions, right? Then others already beat up on their fish. They wore out on their fish, caught them during the week, guys. And then when tournament time came, they didn't know how to adjust. And that's one thing with practicing. If you get one day of practice, guys, find the area with the fish. Tournament day, figure out how to catch them. Guys, let me share you the experience from a boat captain side. Millwood Lake, Arkansas Game and Fish Commissioner Cup Championship, okay? Which I'm familiar with Millwood. I was very familiar. My 2 kids, familiar with Millwood too. Cannon, who was with me, has fished Millwood a lot. We found an area with fish the day before, and it took us 8 hours to find them. Now, guys, when we found them, we only caught one of them, and then we didn't set the hook on the rest. Tournament time came, they moved. They were not there. But in our mind, we knew they are not going to go far. They moved from one section of this area to the other. But then, guys, we adjusted because they changed pieces of cover. We adjusted and found out the lure they wanted. But then, guys, what did we do? We caught them, fished around, came back, fished it again, came back, fished it again. We did not leave them. We stayed on them. The whole theory of leaving fish to find more fish, we didn't want to. One of the kids, even during the tournament, was like, hey, we might need to go run here, go here. And I was like, no, we are locking down, and we're going to try to catch every one of these fish right here. And guys, we ended up winning the championship right there on this area where, like I said, it was a big, it was a big flat, guys, 300-yard area. 500 was pretty like a 1,000-yard area, but there was like a 200 to 300-yard section that had fish. And we just had to go when we got a bite, then figure out how to catch them, okay? Guys, another situation where this cost me, okay, in a tournament. And guys, we're going to get to where, like, for a weekend angler, well, what do we do? Because there's times we can learn from this, and times we can leave fish to find more fish. One time it cost me was when I was in college fishing Lake DeGray. It was end of April, like right now, a spawn and post-spawn event. I found a creek that had fish in it. Beds, had a lot of fish in there. I was catching post-spawn and fish on beds. Well, they were in there for, like I said, it was about a week to 2 weeks. Well, we went there for this tournament, guys, and we did not get many bites there first thing in the morning. And it was a cloudy condition day. Lake kind of went up. I couldn't see them on the beds, and we were just having a hard time. We couldn't get them to bite. Well, about 11 o'clock, we had like 4 small keepers. And I was like, man, we need to make a run. We need to go. And I panicked. I was like, we got to go. But guys, the fish were in there. We left, came back in there about 2 o'clock. We made a couple, we had a limit, called up a couple times, came in there at 2 o'clock, and there was a boat back there. And as I wandered my way back there, he pulled his trolling motor up and came out. When he came out, I asked him, "Would you catch him?" And he said, "Yeah, dude, it just went down for an hour." That guy won the tournament. And I now, like, well, that was one of those moments where I was like, man, if I would have stayed and just waited it out or figured out what they wanted, because I wasn't doing something right, or there was the whole timing part of it. So that right there was another side of, like, if I didn't leave those fish to go try to find new fish, might have won the tournament. But instead I left, somebody pulled in there, caught him, he won the tournament, okay? I mean, that was one of my early spots of life of like, hey, why did I leave these fish? I should have figured them out. Okay, guys, now let's say you're just a weekend angler, right? Because this is where I'm going to get into when it might be okay to leave fish, to find fish. If you find a good group of fish or find a pattern on a certain area of the lake and you're just a weekend guy, what I like to do is try to find that pattern or try to find another group of fish, okay? Now, what this can do is there's, of course, 2 things that are going to happen. You're either going to not find fish, okay, or you're going to find something as good or better somewhere else. So, for example, let's say you're at Highland Reservoir in the river section and you find a little ledge that has a group of fish. Now, me as a weekend guy, me is just how I am. I want to try to find this same pattern somewhere else. I'm thinking in my mind, if this is happening here, where else is it happening? So I try to go find other areas that it happens. I enjoy the puzzle. I enjoy finding new and different ways to catch fish, guys. But you as a weekend guy, you might want to keep catching them. That's okay. Keep catching them. But if you do want to learn and try to find more, go find more, or find another pattern. Go try to find a whole different technique. Move to a different part of the lake, even. And then what you do that day is, if you're like not fishing a tournament, you're then learning, and then you have your logs, and then you're over here just trying to figure out that puzzle. Why were they there eating and not over here on this ledge or this point or this hump? Okay, that's the thing that I enjoy about it. But like I was saying earlier, if you're in a tournament, guys, if you're in a tournament, that mistake you're making is leaving fish to find fish. Now, guys, I do understand as I get into this. Let's say you're like, hey, Jimmy, I'm just catching 12 inchers and 12 inchers. There's no big fish there. Look, I got that giant screen up there to where you're seeing them probably. Guys, that's one thing that's going to open us, is now we can see what's there, okay? But with that, like, I know a lot of these other tournaments that I kind of mentioned of were shallower water events. They weren't offshore events, okay? Shallower water events where you might not specifically see them all up there, but you do have the power of that. But even I'm not going to say the guy's name, but I mean, I guess I can say his name. I'm not going to say his name. A guy that's had some success down here, he's had areas where there are been some good fish kind of offshore in that 10 to 15 foot range, and he's you could see him. And one thing, of course, he's done is he's waited it out, and tried different lures. He will move and come back because he sees them there. He sees them reacting to his bait's not eating. He then comes back, tries a different bait. That's something you can do too, is when you do find that group of fish, I don't like to fish them long, okay? If they're not eating, right? Like I said, this definitely this time of year and in the winter, leave them, move right down the way, try to find another deal close to it, or if you have another group of fish, then come back, try a whole different lure or technique to catch those fish. Guys, what you think is a big mistake in costing you bass, okay? Now, this right here is just a fun little discussion. Let me know what you think about this video. Leave me some comments down below. Appreciate you guys, and hey, we will see you on the next one.